So hey guys, and welcome back to the channel, and on today's video we're actually out riding the supercharged Kawasaki ZH2. So stick around, stay tuned, we'll be right back. So welcome back folks, and I've just taken this bike through Lancaster town centre. I have to tell you that the throttle position and the engine is really smooth in pretty much all gears and low speeds. It's one of the best connected throttles of any bike that I've ridden so far. Fueling is perfect, really nice through town. So we're going to head out now to some twisties. I did take this bike from Preston to Lancaster on the motorway. It is a naked bike, so you're in the full clean air of the wind, no buffeting or anything like that, and pretty stable on the motorways. The bike does come with cruise control, and that works fine. I use that on the motorway a little bit. TFT dash on this one. I think it's a 4-inch. Yeah, it's pretty clear and concise, all the readouts. You've got the rev counter across the top there. You've got the miles per hour. You've got a fuel gauge. There is another screen that I rode up the motorway with, and it actually shows the boost and also the lean angle. I'm not fond of. Why would you want to know your lean angle? And why would you want to know how much boost? And it's just a yellow indicator, really. It's a bit overkill, but all the other information on the standard dash, which I'm in now, even the gear indicator is also on there. So yeah, that's the dash that I prefer, and it's quite a clear, concise readout, so that's good. So like I mentioned, we've got cruise control, we've got a suite of rider aids and electronics. You've got 6-axis IMU, ABS, you've got traction control, different rider modes. I think you've got road, rain and sport. So I was advised to keep it in road and not sport, because sport is pretty mental, and this is the mentalist bike I've ever ridden. So the bike is unbelievably fast, like Starship Enterprise warp speed fast, but it actually doesn't feel it because it's so linear. It's not like there's a big boost of power at 6,000 RPM. It's just linear from the get-go all the way up to the red line. Now this bike's been kindly lent to me by Preston Motorcycles, and I've got this out for the day today. So we're putting it through its paces and seeing what it's all about. I'll come to styling on the bike when we pull up and show you around this bike and show you some technical detail on it. But it does fly, and doesn't matter what gear you're in, it spills up really nice. Just left my indicator on, so there's no self-cancelling indicators on this bike. Mirrors, workable, not the greatest. I see my arms in the mirrors a little bit. But she really takes off, and also there's a quick shifter and a down blipper. This bike is on a 20 plate, but it was registered the end of 2020. It's actually a 21 bike, and the only difference I think between this, which is the ZH2, and then you've got the ZH2 SE, and that one has electronic suspension. That's about all the difference I think it has. And I'll list the prices once we pull up and show you around the bike of the difference in price between the two. Suspension on this bike, by the way, feels really plush. You've got Showa big piston forks on the front, and then you've got a single shock on the back, fully adjustable. Brake and clutch levers are fully adjustable and black, which is nice. In fact, the whole colour scheme's really nice, with it being the green and then the black bodywork. I was never a lover of green motorcycles, but the way they've done this is quite tasteful. So the rear of the bike, you'll have already seen at the start of the video, looks quite nice. The whole bike looks really great. The only part I'm not keen on, and I was never keen on it when I first laid eyes on this bike, was the front near the headlight surround. And for a naked bike, it kind of looks a little bit like a scooter. So that's the only part I'm not keen on. Screen wise, it comes with a little fly screen here, but that does no good whatsoever. It's just a naked bike really. Seating position, you are actually leant forward a little bit sporty on this. The foot pegs are quite high, my knees are quite bent up, so it is a sporty riding position. Tyres, it's got 190 tyre on the back, 120 on the front, Pirelli Rosso 3s, and we'll go into those and have a look at those when we pull up and have a good look around the bike. But they're super sticky tyres. They might be the Corsa 3s actually, I said the Rosso 3s, but we'll have a look at those, see what's on it. Clutch feels nice and light. The gear changes with the quick shifter. It's one of the smoothest quick shifters on any bike I've ridden. The inline 4 engine 998cc on this bike is beautiful and smooth, and coupled with that supercharger, it just beautiful. Absolutely linear power. Now when you're pushing on a bit, the supercharger does chirp a little bit, and there was a rumour or a word going around that that chirp is when the actual impeller on the supercharger breaks the sound barrier. Not sure how true that is, and I've even heard Kawasaki guys mention it. So if anyone knows, then leave a comment below. It's definitely one of those bikes you could lose your license on very quickly. It's that linear, you don't realise what speed you're doing. But it's like every bike, you can ride sensible on it, or you can ride like an absolute tool. And the throttle, like I mentioned, is really smooth, but it's one of those that's really connected. It has some twist with it. Sometimes bikes are a little bit on-off, whereas this one is pretty nice actually. But yeah, it feels very refined, very nice, very smooth. I think Kawasaki could have made a perfect bike if they'd have just put a better front end on it, but that's just my opinion. Others might like it, others might not. And some people might say that it's too much power, 998cc with a supercharger for a naked bike. Personally, I think it is. It's an absolute marvel, a masterpiece in this engine that Kawasaki have created. And when they actually brought the H2 and the H2R out some years ago, I had an idea that they were going to put superchargers in most of their bikes, but I didn't expect them to put it in a 1000cc naked bike. So yeah, is it too much power? It depends what you use it for. You know, things like the dash where it shows you the amount of lean angle that you've just done. It's a bit overkill. I don't know why you would have that on a motorcycle, unless it's on track and you've got telemetry and stuff like that coming back through something. But yeah, it's kind of, you know, latest TFT digital dashes. What information can we actually put on the dash? Oh, somebody had an idea, let's put the boost. Well, what use is that to anyone? And let's put the lean angle. Too much information, but a nicely laid out dash all the same. The exhaust on the bike is quite huge. Not the biggest I've seen, but probably one of the most ugliest exhausts I've seen on a bike. Now, I know a lot of us, when we buy bikes, we actually change the exhaust pipe. It's one of the first things we do, or even decap the bike just to free up the engine a little bit. So I understand Euro 5 regulations, they have to do these things, but it is an ugly exhaust. Sound wise as well, it sounds very inline 4 muted through that cam. You can't hear the supercharger chirp that much when you're just revving it, but when you're riding it in aggression you can. I think if you were to put an aftermarket exhaust on it, it would sound a lot nicer. So let's take a look through the specs of the Kawasaki ZH2. This bike is priced at $15,899. The ZH2 SE, which has the electronic suspension, is priced at $18,349. So you're paying, you know, a little bit more for electronic suspension. But to be honest, the suspension on this is fully adjustable, and it shows big piston forks and a single shock at the rear, and it feels quite nice on the road. So not sure it would be worth paying the extra if that's all you get for your money. But anyway, let's dig in. So the paint scheme on this, you can get it in one colour, and that's black and green. Quite like the paint scheme, and I like the trellis frame that it has in green with the black, so that's all good. The bike has a 998cc engine. This is an inline 4, and as you can see here, we've got the supercharger on it. The bike is extremely linear in power, and it produces 198 bhp at 11,000 rpm, and it has 137 newton meters of torque, and that comes in at 8,500 rpm. The exhaust pipe, not too keen. It's probably one of the most ugliest exhausts that I have known on a bike, so most people will change that if they bought this bike. The front of the bike, styling wise, leaves not much to the imagination. Personally, I don't like it. It's a little bit ugly, looks a little bit like a scooter, and I've always thought that since I actually saw this at one of the bike shows. But the rest of the bike and the styling and things, I think it looks quite nice from the side. So tyres on this, you've got Pirelli Rosso 3s, and you've got a 190 on the rear, and then on the front you've got a 120. Brakes are M4 monoblock Brembo calipers, so you've just got normal brake lines on this, you've not got the stainless steel braided lines, and these are on 320mm discs. On the rear, I think it's a 220mm disc, and you've got a twin pot Nissin brake caliper on the rear. Suspension, so Showa big piston forks, and as you can see just here they're fully adjustable on the front, and then on the rear, just tucked underneath, you've got a Unitrack Showa gas adjustable suspension. Seat height is 830mm. Now I can flat foot this and I'm 6'2", quite long legged, but it is quite high. And also the difference between this, the ZH2 and the SE version, the seats are a little bit more plush, and yeah, they've got a different cover on with nice stitching on the SE. On the standard version here, you've got this material which I actually don't like. I think it makes it look a bit cheap, but there you go. Certainly not a cheap bike. Okay, so the dash on the bike, I'll turn it on. It's quite a nice TFT that you've got on here, and you've got various different settings. On the right lever you've got your start stop and your select switch for the dash, and the other side you've got cruise control. You've got your modes for changing things in your dash and reset. Standard indicators, they're not self-cancelable. You've got your horn and your hazard warning lights, and then you've got your pass switch just up the front, your trigger just there for your lights. So the dash itself, you can go into all kinds of menus on here for display. I believe you can also hook up Bluetooth, music and telephone and things on it. I'm not sure if it's an extra module that you need to spend more money on to activate that, but you can change the display as well on here, and you can set up between two different displays. This is the one I like because it basically gives you a gear indicator. You've got road, rain or sport mode you're in. You've got a fuel gauge, which is great. You've got miles per gallon average, engine temp, outside temp, clock, rev counter, speedo. That's all you need. But it does come with a host of different things like ABS, traction control. You've got a 6-axis IMU on the bike with lean angle sensitive traction control as well. It needs it, to be honest, because it is such a powerful bike, but the power is linear. It's really smooth. Gas cap is a standard lockable gas cap you've got on here. So you've got a hydraulic clutch. You can see just here the reservoir, and then you brake over the other side. Also to mention, it does have the E10 fuel sticker on here. This came up recently when I filled up on my MT10. Put E10 fuel in it and it ran terrible, so I'll be using premium gas in mine from now on, and I've heard that a lot of other people have had issues. That's the ZH2. Like I say, we're out riding it now. It's a really nice bike, well worth a look. The Z900 is very similar, I believe, but the H2 has obviously the supercharger hooked up to the engine, and yeah, it really spins up nice. You do hear that chirp from the engine and the supercharger when you're pushing on a little bit. Tail tidy on the bike, doesn't look too bad. I'm sure people fit aftermarket ones to these. Not great for a pillion, seat's quite high. Does have pillion foot pegs on the back. I think I'd be taking those off. The bike has a quick shifter, and that's located just down here, and it's nice to see black footrests on the bike. Has kind of a little belly pan, you can see under there, for styling. Yeah, the quick shifter is one of the smoothest that I've used on any bike. Okay, so that's the specs on the Kawasaki ZH2. Nice sound, and I don't know whether you could hear the chirping of the supercharger just now. But yeah, we're just down at Pine Lake in Carnforth. Nice wooden lodges just here on the left and right hand side. Right next to the lake, they've got water sports and things going on. Even a ski ramp just out there on the water. So having been on the bike for a couple of hours now, and getting used to it, it's always best to try and get a longer test ride if you can on bikes. It does take you a couple hours just to gel with the bike and get into it. But yeah, I'm very impressed with the bike. It handles perfectly as you would expect with modern day tyres and suspension and things. The engine is super sweet, absolutely the most linear engines out there today. Not to be intimidated by the supercharger, because it is linear and it only winds up as you obviously get more into the rev range, but it is a super nice bike. So on to the things I love about the bike, and the main one is the engine and just how linear and the throttle connection is to it. I love the quick shifter, one of the smoothest in the industry that I've come across. Not too fond of the dash as a TFT. I think they could have done a little bit better with that, and also I would have liked the actual display a little bit larger than it is. Mirrors, functional, not fantastic. And the biggest dislike is the front end, just that nose cone on the bike. It looks a bit like a scooter. The rest of the bike looks superb, and I thought that actually years ago when I saw this at the NEC motorcycle show, was that they've got it exactly right as it should be, and the only problem was the nose cone that looked so ugly, and it still hasn't grown on me today. I think with some of the naked bikes on the road today, they are a little bit over the front. You're sort of perched over the front, and if they don't have anything there, it kind of feels like you're right over the front wheel. Seating position, it's not the comfiest, I have to say. Maybe the SE seat, which is different, would be comfier. This seat actually feels like my 2006 ZX-10R seat, a little bit on the firm side, and I think on a very long journey you would be having lots of stops and things, but it certainly takes off. And also the way the actual foot pegs are quite high. I'm actually flat-footed, just against my heel just now, but if I actually put my toes on the pegs, literally within 20 minutes, half an hour, my knees would be aching. Now that could be my age or not, but that's just the way it makes me feel on this bike, and I always like to keep the reviews true and honest. But yeah, it's a lovely bike. Yeah, it has flaws in my opinion, maybe not in your opinion or others, but don't all bikes that we buy have things that we don't like about them and things that we do like about them? I know every bike I've always bought, I've always changed a lot of things on it to suit myself, so that's part of the beauty of owning a bike, just to slightly customize it to suit you. It's the first supercharged bike that I've actually ridden. Yeah, I wasn't expecting it to be so linear. I thought it would be all, 6,000 RPM and a huge rush of power, but literally from 1,000 revs all the way up to the red line, it just pulls and pulls. Like I say, on the motorway with the wind, it's clean air. You're not getting buffeted unless you're actually following a wagon or something. I think on longer journeys, naked bikes anyway are not suited. But on the back lanes, yep, it feels really, really agile, really flickable, as it should do on modern day suspension and tyres. And what was a lovely surprise was through town, how the fueling and the throttle is absolutely perfect. So what we're going to do now, we're going to head down to Preston on these back lanes and take the bike back. Okay, so just like that, we're back in Preston. We're returning the bike to Preston Motorcycles. Again, I'd like to give a huge shout out and thanks to Preston Motorcycles for loaning me this bike today. If you're in the Lancashire area, guys, and you're looking for a new bike or a second-hand bike, they've got lots of second-hand bikes on stock, and also they're a dealer for things like Kawasaki's, Suzuki, and various different brands of motorcycles. I'll put a list on the screen just now so you can see. And the contact details obviously for Preston Motorcycles. If you want a test ride on any of these bikes, then give them a shout and come down and see the guys. They're really helpful. And if you're not a subscriber to the channel yet, guys, then hit that subscribe button, ding that bell. It all helps the channel to grow. Thank you very much. And again, thank you for the support from my subscribers currently. And I'll catch you on another review video shortly. Take care, guys. Cheers.